New GPUs are expensive, but the media says that buying a second-hand GPU is risky. Ooh, it's a bad idea. I disagree.
Linus Sebastian, one of my favorite tech gods of all time, one of the coolest dudes. I would love to meet him one day, but sometimes he's just wrong. I recently watched this video in full and understood a lot of his points, and actually I agree with a lot of his points. Mining cards aren't always a bad thing. You could possibly buy one and get pretty lucky. But there are some caveats that he kind of missed in this video, and I wanted to talk about each of them. So I get a lot of my hardware, like this card here, from a good friend of mine who is also a business partner of mine. He's based out of Rhode Island. His name is Roxwell Tech. He goes by Melvin. And basically everything he works on is in pristine condition. He is a very meticulous person. His mining rigs are perfect. He knows all sorts of things like how to perfectly clock them to make the most money, how to repaste correctly, which some people don't know how to do, other things like repadding. And I guess what I'm getting at is that he's an example of someone who's very, very good at this. And I've explained this to him before because he looks at it like as if everyone should be doing it like that. But the truth is, a lot of people are not. A lot of people will get these cards, throw them in a rig, press go, and just hope to make money. To actually set up a mining rig, you do need some computer literacy. You can't just kind of go in and wing it, but there's plenty of tutorials and videos online showing you how to do it, and I feel like a lot of people follow those kind of videos, and half the time people are doing things other people are saying and not actually doing it knowing why they are doing it. And that's where things get a little bit fuzzy. So I have a small list of things to look out for if you're going to buy one of these cards, and I want to start with this card as an example. Alright, so I popped the 3060 Ti in my test bench, and to be perfectly clear before I make any more of this video, this came from Mel, but it was never tested because he knows that I can test the hardware, and he just didn't have time. He got it from somebody else. But it's a really good example of what might end up happening. So let's boot it up. Posts perfectly fine, but you'll notice this one fan is not spinning. Well, that's not a big deal, right? You could just buy another fan. So now both the fans have stopped, which is completely normal, other than the fact that this one doesn't spin at all. It does that when it's not too hot. It's a feature that's been on cards for years now. I bring this card up because it's a really good example. It's in pristine condition. It's not even really dirty. There's a little bit of dirt in there. And it comes with the box and the cable. So if you were an average buyer and you pick this up on the used market, now you have a fan to replace. And that's a problem in itself. So you have this card and now you need to buy a new fan. So if you start looking at eBay, you can see the average price, $389, $345. I'm gonna say the average price on this card after already looking through a bunch of sold listings is around $350. But you're not gonna find them here. You have some different models, that's EVGA. What do we got here? Asus. I'm sure if you look long enough, you'll find something. I do have a post for the actual fan, and this is a website called gpufanreplacement.com. So if you look here, $45 for either a pack or, let's see if it's a pack or one. So it looks like it's two fans, which is not a terrible deal, but let's say you bought this card at $280, and then you gotta buy $45 worth of fans, who knows what shipping is. All of a sudden you're back to the price of the average gaming card, and you're kind of missing the whole point of saving the extra buck. One of the other things that Linus Sebastian discussed briefly but didn't go in depth about is GDDR6X. Now, not all of these cards have the 6X version of that memory. Some of them just have the regular 6. But the 6X specifically runs extremely hot, and on the 30 series, they had temperatures of near 90 to 100 degrees Celsius. There's all these different pages talking about mods to fix the temperature issues, and I can guarantee you Although some of those miners may have done things like this, many of those people did not. They left them at stock and they ran them for 24/7, months and months at a time, maybe even years. Not even that long ago, there were also new algorithms discovered, and ones like this that are completely dependent on memory and basically turning off the core of the GPU is great for the actual core, but even worse for the memory because now you're putting a full load on this already extremely hot and poorly cooled memory, and you're pushing it to its limits. Another factor to think about is the location that these cards were stored in. Some people like to get the temperatures really low so that their efficiency is high and the core and memory stay cool, which is great for the card, but then you run into problems like this. This is a guy named Kris Fix. His channel is awesome. He basically goes over how a whole bunch of 6900 XTs came to him with cracked dies, and for a little while, we all thought it was a driver issue because these cards experienced this problem after a major driver update. Turns out they were stored in very cool locations, and the heat and temperatures changing so often ended up somehow cracking the die, and that's a huge problem. Now, that is a very severe example, and I'm not saying any of you will probably ever come across that if you buy a mining GPU, but it is a factor, and things like temperature or where it was stored, how dirty it got. Most of the mining stuff that I got years ago, especially when the RX 580 boom kind of ended, was absolutely disgusting. I don't think I ever found a mining GPU that didn't look like it went deep sea diving and then came up in a pile of poo. It was just ridiculous how gross those cards were. And to this day, I remember cleaning in the house and being like, man, I wish I cleaned these outside because they were just so disgusting and they left little mites everywhere, and I don't even want to think about it. In conclusion, most of the cards that I see online are not priced aggressively enough yet for you to actually go and buy a mining version of a card versus a gaming card. One of the problems we're going to run into in the future is people kind of trying to hide the fact that they're mining cards, and I'm already seeing sellers saying things like, oh, only bought it for gaming, and yet they have a listing with 150 cards for sale. You kind of know when you're looking at eBay, if there's 150 of that card only for gaming, that it was definitely a mining card. So, should this stop you from buying it? No. If it's a good enough deal and you can save $50 to $100 on something like a 3060 Ti, 3080, then just buy it, especially if it's eBay buyer protection or somebody you know. If it's something like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, OfferUp, any of those sites where you're really unsure of the person, the background of the card, it's probably a better idea not to do it. Or if you are going to do it, make sure you meet in a place where you can actually test the card, like maybe go to their house if you're being safe, and test it and see how it runs before you make a purchase like that. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I just wanted to talk about that. It's kind of important to me. And till next time, guys. Peace.